This attractive little 41 Buick Super 56C Convertible Coupe showed up a couple days ago. It is a almost entirely original car. As far as I can tell, paint, interior, top, chrome, everything's original on it. There's been some freshening in the engine. Doug Siebold just went through it mechanically, so it's very healthy. Runs and drives very well. That's original Chenenga gray, which is kind of a green gray. Hard to tell in videos what color it really is, but it's a little bit of green to it, with a red leather interior. It runs very well, although the shocks were totally dry, so I spent the day today doing some tweaks, playing with the carburetors, getting it to idle nicely, and putting some correct oil in the shocks to improve the ride a little bit. But it starts real well, idles nicely, so let's see how it drives. It is about 28 degrees out. It is plenty cold, but the little car doesn't seem to mind. See, all the gauges are working. Temperature gauge is a little bit lazy, just surely because of the cold. Good oil pressure at idle. I don't think the gas gauge is working. I just pumped, I don't know, maybe 10 gallons into it, and it hasn't moved, so I suspect it's no good. The radio powers up and buzzes, but does not pull in any stations. And of course, the clock's not working. Great horns, and you can see the parking lights out there doing their thing. And maybe you can't quite see it, but the dash lights are also on, and they work just fine as well. So let's take a little drive. Easy clutch action, no chatter. Big difference with oil in the shocks. Pulls nicely through the gears, shifts very well, linkage is tight, no slop. Pulls itself along pretty well. Everyone claims the small series cars like this can't run with regular traffic, but I don't find that to be the case. This car scoots along just as well as anything else in the modern world. And, I don't know, we're rolling along here at about 45. It cruises along there without any effort at all. Nice and quiet. The ride is definitely vastly improved now that there's oil in the shocks. Being freezing cold out, it's certainly a little brittle, but I've actually got the heater running, and it seems to be putting out a few BTUs to keep me warm. Turn signals work. You can see the parking light working, but the one on the dash also doing its thing. And is it warming up? Not really. It doesn't seem to want to warm up. It's just too cold out. I suspect it does not have a thermostat in it. Uphill, in traffic behind me, no problem. It gets out of the way just fine. The tires are probably 50 years old, and they feel like they're shaped like stop signs. Probably hard as rocks as well, so that's one thing I would replace. I haven't decided if this car is a keeper or to sell it. I may put tires on it either way, or let the next guy decide what he wants to put on. But we're cruising along here. The speedometer says we're doing about 55. And it does not seem to be working very hard. The engine is very quiet. The only real noise is wind noise around the windows, of course. Seals up reasonably well, but I think it's all original rubber, so it's a little dry. But it's not like you're going to be driving this in the winter or the rain anyway. But it certainly drives nicely. About 35 miles an hour, maybe 30 miles an hour. There's a little bit of vibration. That's all the tires. They are 100% done. Idles nicely. Just doesn't want to warm up. Nice to drive. Tracks well. Doug went through and did master cylinder, hoses, wheel cylinders, shoes, so all of that's good. All the bearings have been serviced. All the fluids are fresh. This drives at least as well as my 56C that I sold 2 years ago, which was a previous show winner. There's something to be said for the way an original car feels. It's tight. You can hear there aren't any squeaks or rattles inside. Thankfully, this one has no exhaust leaks like every other car seems to have. And even on a very cold day, with a convertible, the heater's doing a decent job of keeping me comfortable in here. It's really not bad at all. I could drive all day like this. We're just humming along here at about 50 miles an hour. That sign says 40, the speedometer says 50. Who knows what the truth is? I suspect the speedometer's a little bit optimistic. Stops true, nice and straight. I'm not even holding the wheel, although you can't see that. Now you can start to see the dash lights are working. Is the original engine turning on the instrument panel faces, so you can see the factory pattern and kind of a greenish gold color to it. There's some discussion as to what color it should be. I think there were probably 2 or 3 different colors depending on what color the car was. I suspect some of the plastic inside this car has been replaced. The gauges just look too nice to be original. But I do believe the steering wheel is original. It's a slightly different color. And in my hands, it's thinner than my limousine's wheel, which has been recast. It feels noticeably different. That leads me to believe that it is indeed original, and it's very nicely preserved. But really a no-hassles little car. Flip over to headlights. Parking lights go off when the headlights are on, that's normal. Generator is having no problem keeping up with the headlights. It's idling at about 600 RPM right now. It should probably idle at about 450, but it doesn't want to. I can't get it to go any lower, so that's probably something in the throttle plates that I'll play with, or not. It works so well, why mess with it? New tires would just make this car delightful. The shocks are vastly improved. It's not bobbing and weaving all over the place like it did before. The turn signal works independent of the lights. I'm just going to leave it in high gear and just take this corner without a shift. I don't think it'll care. No problem. That was sort of the point of the tall gears that they put in these small series cars. They were designed to be used around town. Tall gears cut down on shifting. This car will do anything but a dead stop in high gear, even though it's fairly modest in the torque department with only 248 cubic inches to work with. This is a dual carb car. All the Supers came with dual carburetors from the factory. Don't let anyone tell you it's a special option. They all came that way. It's not a huge difference in terms of performance. I can't feel much difference between this one and the one I had, which was a single carburetor. But there's a good surge when you lean on it. It pulls real nicely. Let's just a quick zip up to about, I don't know, about 60. Feels like it would run at this speed all day. It doesn't feel like it's straining. I don't feel like I'm spinning it too hard. The ride is nice, and I don't know what you can hear in the video, but there's very little engine noise. All I hear is wind noise through the windows. This car has its original top on it, which is pretty dried out and crusty. I don't think I'm going to try putting the top down. I think that would be the last thing it ever does. I'll figure out if I'm going to replace it if I keep the car. If I sell it, I'll let the next guy figure out what he wants to do. But we have the rear curtain open, which is how it came to us. And when we tried to close it up, it just started coming undone. So I'm driving along here with the rear window wide open. But like I said, the heater keeps up no problem, and it's really not that noisy in here at all. It's really kind of impressive. If not for those square tires, this car would just be delightful to drive. I'm thankful for Buick's front and rear turn signals, because there's a guy crawling up my turnpipe and my tailpipe here. Doug's work on the brakes has paid off. The car stops well, the pedal's firm. See the headlights working, you can see the instrument lights are all lit up. I'll go outside and show you the turn signals. You can see the top's a little bit done and the rear curtain is open. There's the factory turn signals, which work reasonably well. They're a little low on the car, Melanie says, when she's following me in the limo, but you can hear that it runs rather well. Nice little 8-cylinder burble. Again, it's hard to get the color, but it's a nice gray with a little bit of green in it. And the red leather is just gorgeous inside. It's really a good looking car. The chrome is excellent. All the pot metal. Very, very little pitting. Very nicely preserved. The bumpers are so nice, I'm almost thinking they've been done at some point, but who knows? On an original car, it's been sitting in a museum since the 60s, so anything that's been changed is at least that old. Just a nice, nice little car, and very tempted to keep it for myself. So, thanks for looking. Hope to see you soon.